So Liverpool are looking like they're actually going to make their first signing of the window, that being Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad. Now, the 25-year-old Spaniard has got lots of qualities, lots of attributes that Liverpool really do need, and honestly, I think it's a very good signing for the Reds. But let's go through absolutely everything that we need to know about this man before he hopefully, fingers crossed here, signs for Liverpool FC. So Zubimendi joined Real Sociedad's academy back in 2011 and actually ended up working his way up through the ranks, has always been a one-club man, and actually made his debut just after he turned 19. So they clearly sort of saw the potential for his development right at that early stage. He's obviously worked his way into that side quite well and has then obviously become an absolute mainstay within that side. He has now made 188 appearances for Sociedad, so again, there's consistency in those performances, right? Like, he's clearly a player that has batted away any competition that potentially come in, and I think a big part of it is obviously down to his technical ability, which he does have. I mean, it's easy to understand why earlier on in his career they were touting him to be like the next Busquets, right? And even Barcelona were like looking to sign him. So then, speaking from an international perspective, he has obviously been capped by the Spanish national team. He's got 10 appearances at this stage. He's played in the Euros, just gone. Actually subbed on for Rodri in that final at half-time, you know, when he went off injured. And he's almost seen as, at least in the national team's perspective, as his understudy. Now, there aren't many good sixes in the world. And I think when you think of the good ones that are there, Rodri is probably the best, right? Like, at the very least, he's up there. Being the understudy to him isn't exactly bad, is it? Let's be honest. And there isn't many, from my own thoughts, there aren't many sixes out there that are available that aren't playing for big six clubs. The only ones I can think are the ones that Liverpool have already been linked to, so the likes of your Ederson's at Atalanta or potentially Ugarte at PSG. So obviously, as we mentioned, Zubimendi has got bags of technical ability, but actually one of his biggest assets is his aerial ability. He actually wins on average about 1.4 aerial duels a match, and when you combine this with the 1.5 clearances he has per 90, he should be class in that area. And when you think of how physical the Premier League is, the ability to obviously utilise those assets, and not to mention the fact that he's obviously pretty tall as well, that's a dream combination as to what you've got in a midfielder there, particularly one you want to be a little bit deeper lying. I wouldn't sit there and say that Zubimendi is like a number 6 in the traditional sense, though, if you know what I mean. When you picture that, you picture somebody like an Endo, loves a challenge, sticks his foot in, even the likes of like a Fabinho previously. Zubimendi isn't quite the same in that regard. He can put in that actual physicality, because again, he's got the assets and the attributes to do it, but he's more of a anticipator of a defensive midfielder, if that makes sense. So he would look more to sort of block the ball and actually go in there and 2-foot somebody. And that's really, really obvious and really, really evident by how Real Sociedad have been playing. I believe, if I've got the figures right here, I think he blocked 19 shots outside of the penalty area and 15 shots within the penalty area for Sociedad last season alone. That is the reason why their defence is so good. As we can see from a list of Zubimendi's defensive actions over the course of the last 2 seasons, he clearly loves defending the box, right? He's really, really central in that defensive area, just in front of the centre-halves. That is essential when you look at how Liverpool play, right? Obviously, with how the fullbacks push forward, the centre-half split, you always had Fabinho or an Endo or Henderson, whoever, coming into that hole there. There's no reason why Zubimendi can't look to do that and facilitate that need, especially if you're going to have this double pivot system as well, where you want a player in there that obviously receive the ball well in tight spaces, ping it forward, and also drop back and do the defensive cover. He isn't just a destroyer though, there is a very good range of passing on him. He's also very good on the ball in tight spaces, and again, as we know in the Premier League, Champions League, you don't get a lot of time. So obviously with that, the ability to be able to dictate the tempo of the game with the likes of his passing is something that honestly Liverpool do sorely lack, particularly in that role. As we can see from the image on screen, these are clearly the types of positions that Zubimendi will love to pick up, just sort of in that number 6 role, just sort of behind the midfield and the offensive line. So he's got the ability there to distribute multiple avenues. And in its own sense, those snappy little passes and connections, which you'll see with the likes of Liverpool, so you've got to think, as opposed to those Sociedad players, you'd have the likes of a Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, whoever you want in there. They're going to be able to move the ball a lot quicker with somebody like him than you would, say, for example, an Endo, who's maybe not the best in possession. I appreciate you can obviously view this as quite a simple task. I mean, it's only just little 6-yard passes, but in an essence, it's almost a way of defending with possession by keeping the ball. You see Man City do it a lot. They just keep the ball. They don't have to necessarily defend incredibly. That is their way of maintaining control of the match. And there's no reason why Liverpool can't look to emulate this if they bring in the likes of a Zubimendi. Now, obviously, speaking of the ability to make these quick passes, when it does come to his almost pass completion as such, he is certainly in the upper percentile of success with that. So as we can sort of see on screen, Zubimendi does tend to complete around 86% of his passes in La Liga, with an average of around 51 attempts per 90. Now, in comparison to other defensive and central midfielders in this period, it is enough to put him way above average in that slot, right? Which, again, playing for a Sociedad, who aren't necessarily the likes of a Barcelona or a Real or an Atletico, they haven't exactly got the most blessed of players. They're definitely a very strong side, but they're not the upper echelon of La Liga. That is very impressive. Now, quite frankly, it is kind of no surprise that he has adopted elements of this game when you look through the history of his career. He was, of course, managed by a Liverpool legend in the likes of Xabi Alonso, the man who is arguably, well, who a lot of fans want to be Liverpool's manager, but there you go, Arne Slot, away we go. He has developed to play a similar sort of style to the likes of a Xabi Alonso. Now, if you remember Xabi Alonso playing, I do just about, but I was a bit young, the range of passing on that man was quite possibly the best that has been seen. I mean, you look at the likes of Gerrard, etc., but Xabi Alonso's ability to pass a ball was second to none. So he's clearly adopted elements of that from his game in Xabi Alonso, who obviously have played very, very similar positions, that deep-lying playmaker role. So you got to think that there's going to be maybe on the stretch, maybe there's a little bit of like, oh, he's the new Xabi Alonso. That would be quite nice, right? So much like a Xabi Alonso, not only has he got the ability to obviously move the ball nicely, keep hold of possession well, but his passes, are at least 35% of them, are always moving up the pitch. Now, I can't stress personally how big of a factor that is for me when you look at how Liverpool have played before with their number 6. The amount of times I see, or saw at the very least, fucking Jordan Henderson do a little chop with his right foot and pass it back to Trent Alexander-Arnold, or give it back to Van Dijk or Matip or whoever's there. At least you've got to say that this isn't going to happen as much. Again, I know we've had a season without it, but it would be nice to see more of those passes moving forward. Again, that's what the whole double pivot system is. They dictate the play moving forward. Now, when it does come to this signing, and again, I can't stress this enough, I really do hope that Liverpool make it, but I think that we need to also maintain a level of expectation as to what we do expect out of Zubimendi, in the sense that he's not going to be an incredible goal scorer. He's not going to get loads of assists. He is going to be almost a very unsung asset of that squad. But that doesn't make him any less important. Again, you look at the likes of Sergio Busquets, who's been compared to for his whole career. I mean, nobody raves about Busquets making 30 assists in 457 appearances for Barcelona, but everybody knows how fucking good Busquets was at his role. That is something that Zubimendi can 100% replicate in that same tactical area. So that's everything I feel that you need to know about Zubimendi before his potential move to Liverpool. Again, when it comes to Liverpool and signings, generally speaking, they tend to get them done fairly quickly when they are showing a lot of interest. But then again, we had the whole debacle of Caicedo and Lavia last season when we went for a 6. So I'm not exactly getting Zubimendi on the back of the shirt quite yet. But let me know what you guys think. Are you excited about this signing? I think, honestly, we should be excited about any signing at this point, as we've kind of been starved of it all season. But let me know down below. And if you have watched to this point and you have enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing. And as always, thanks ever so much for watching.